The crystal chandeliers of the Palmer House ballroom cast elegant shadows across marble floors as Chicago's elite gathered for the annual Barrett Industries charity gala. I stood in the shadows near the service entrance, watching my stepsister Victoria hold court near the champagne fountain, her designer gown catching light like spun gold. "Can you believe she actually showed up?" Victoria's voice carried across the marble, pitched just loud enough to ensure I'd hear. Daddy's little secretary trying to play businesswoman. I smoothed down my navy Tom Ford suit, not that anyone here would recognize the label. To them, I was still Emma Thorne, the charity case who typed memos and fetched coffee, my father's assistant, nothing more. If only they knew. "Emma," my stepmother Margaret's voice cut through the murmur of conversation, "be a dear and fix the place cards at table 7. Someone made a terrible mistake with the seating." I bit back a smile. The seating arrangements were exactly as I'd designed them, though of course, Margaret didn't know that, just like she didn't know who really owned the Palmer House now, or Barrett Industries, for that matter. "Of course, Margaret." I moved toward the table, heels clicking softly against marble. Behind me, I heard Victoria's theatrical whisper, "God, how embarrassing, she's basically the help." The help. I remembered that word from 15 years ago, when my father married Margaret and suddenly acquired a ready-made family complete with the perfect daughter, Victoria Barrett, homecoming queen turned business school graduate, now executive VP of strategy at Barrett Industries, a title earned through DNA rather than merit. I was 16 when Margaret moved into our house, bringing Victoria and a new set of rules. Gone were the quiet evenings when Dad and I would discuss business strategy over homework. Instead, there were cotillion classes, social obligations, and constant reminders that I wasn't quite polished enough. "Your father built this company from nothing," Margaret would say, eyeing my second-hand clothes. "We have standards to maintain." So I maintained them. I got the accounting degree they expected, took the entry-level position they offered, and played the role of the dutiful stepdaughter, all while building something of my own, piece by quiet piece. The first acquisition was a small tech startup in Milwaukee, then a manufacturing plant in Detroit, a shipping company in Cleveland, each purchase carefully masked through holding companies and offshore accounts, each victory celebrated in silence. "Emma," Victoria's voice pulled me from my thoughts. She stood by table 7, champagne in hand, examining my work with a critical eye. "The Hendersons can't sit with the Caldwells. Honestly, how long have you worked here? Don't you know anything about social dynamics?" I straightened the last place card. "My mistake. I'll fix it right away." "See that you do." She turned to the cluster of admirers who always seemed to orbit her. "Can you believe Daddy still keeps her around? Pure charity if you ask me. She's been his secretary for what, 10 years now? 8, I corrected softly, though I wasn't really his secretary. I hadn't been for years. The title was just a convenient cover while I executed the longest, most elaborate corporate takeover in Chicago's history. Victoria rolled her eyes. "Whatever, just try not to embarrass us tonight. The new investors are coming in dash." She stopped mid-sentence as William Chen, head of security, approached our group. His face was professionally neutral, but I caught the slight twitch of his lips, the ghost of a smile. "Miss Thorne," he said, voice carrying across the now hushed circle, "the board is ready for you. They're waiting in the executive suite." Victoria's champagne glass slipped from her fingers, shattering against the floor. "The board? Why would they want to see the secretary?" I turned to her slowly, savoring the moment I'd waited 8 years to experience. "Oh, didn't you hear? Barrett Industries has a new CEO." I paused, letting the words sink in. "Actually, it has a new owner." The color drained from her face. "What are you talking about?" I reached into my clutch and withdrew a business card. Simple, elegant, with my name embossed in silver, Emma Thorne, Chief Executive Officer, Thorne Global Ventures. "You see, Victoria, while you were busy planning seating charts, I was planning something much bigger. Would you like to know what your company's really worth? Because I do, down to the last penny." Margaret appeared at Victoria's elbow, her face twisted in confusion. "This is absurd. Robert would never dash." "Robert didn't." I cut in smoothly. "I did, through a series of shell corporations and strategic investments over the past 8 years. As of 4 p.m. today, Thorne Global Ventures owns 51% of Barrett Industries voting shares." The ballroom had gone completely silent. Hundreds of Chicago's most powerful people frozen in place, watching the scene unfold. I could see the questions in their eyes, the mental calculations as they reassessed every interaction we'd ever had. "That's impossible," Victoria whispered. "You're nobody, you're just a secretary." I smiled, remembering all the coffee runs, All the condescending comments, all the times they'd looked right through me. A secretary who now owns controlling interest in Chicago's largest private equity firm. Funny how life works out, isn't it? William stepped forward again. Miss Thorne, the board is waiting. Thank you, William. I turned to go, then paused. Oh, and Victoria? About those new investors you mentioned? They work for me, all of them. In fact, I gestured to the room at large. You might want to check your phones. My name's on quite a few business cards these days. As if on cue, phones began buzzing throughout the ballroom. News alerts, stock notifications, urgent messages from financial advisors. The truth spreading like wildfire through Chicago's business elite. I walked toward the executive elevator, leaving chaos in my wake. Behind me, I heard Victoria's shrill voice, "Daddy, do something." But there was nothing Robert Barrett could do, nothing any of them could do, because while they'd been dismissing me as just a secretary, I'd been building an empire. And now, finally, everyone would know it. The executive suite of the Palmer House hadn't changed much in the 15 years since I first stepped inside it. Same mahogany paneling, same leather chairs, same oil paintings of Chicago's Gilded Age, but the energy was different tonight, electric, uncertain. 12 members of Barrett Industries' board sat around the massive conference table, their black tie attire at odds with their tense expressions. My father occupied his usual seat at the head of the table, but something had shifted in his posture. For the first time, he looked old. "Emma," he said, his voice carrying a weight I'd never heard before, "I think you owe us an explanation." I took my time settling into the chair opposite him, smoothing my suit, taking in each face around the table. James Chen from Acquisitions, Patricia Mueller from Operations, Thomas Blackwood from Legal. All of them had walked past my desk for years, barely sparing me a glance. An explanation? I kept my voice level. I believe the quarterly reports explain everything quite clearly. Barrett Industries has been underperforming for the past 5 years. Cost overruns, missed opportunities, declining market share. I paused, letting each point land. The shareholders deserved better leadership. "This is outrageous." Victoria burst out from the doorway where she'd been hovering. "You can't just walk in here and dash." "Actually, I can." I withdrew a folder from my briefcase. "Shall we discuss the Anderson merger? The one you championed last quarter?" Victoria's face paled. "What about it?" "The due diligence was sloppy, the valuation inflated. If it had gone through, it would have cost the company nearly $300 million in hidden liabilities." I spread the documents across the table. Fortunately, someone noticed the discrepancies before the deal closed. "That deal fell through because of regulatory issues," Victoria protested. "No," I corrected gently, "it fell through because I made sure it did. Just like I made sure the Singapore expansion was delayed and the tech division restructured. I've been protecting this company from its own management for years." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Every major decision, every strategic pivot, every mysterious market force that had shaped Barrett Industries' trajectory, all of it traced back to me. "Why?" My father's question cut through the tension. "Why go to all this trouble? Why not just tell me?" I met his gaze steadily. "Would you have listened?" The question hung in the air, heavy with years of missed dinners, ignored suggestions, and patronizing pats on the head. We both knew the answer. "Mr. Barrett," William appeared in the doorway. "The press is requesting comment on the ownership change." "Thank you, William, but Mr. Barrett no longer speaks for the company." I stood, straightening my jacket. "I'll handle the press conference myself." "This is a mistake." Margaret's voice trembled from where she stood behind Victoria. "Robert, tell her this is a mistake." But my father said nothing. He just stared at the documents before him. Years of careful planning laid bare in spreadsheets and contracts. "The mistake," I said quietly, "was assuming I would stay in my place, that I would be content fetching coffee while Victoria ran this company into the ground. I graduated from Wharton," Victoria snapped. "I have an MBA. And I have controlling interest in 12 major corporations across 3 continents." I smiled. "Funny how none of you ever wondered how a secretary could afford Armani suits or a penthouse in the Gold Coast." "Those were gifts from Robert," Margaret said weakly. "We thought he was just being generous to his employee." "No," my father spoke up, his voice rough. I didn't buy those things." He looked at me with new eyes. "You did all of this yourself? Every penny, every deal, every victory and setback. While you were grooming Victoria to take over, I was building something bigger." I turned to the board members. "Now, shall we discuss the future of Barrett Industries? I have some rather significant changes in mind." The next hour was a masterclass in corporate restructuring. I outlined my vision for the company: streamlined operations, aggressive expansion into emerging markets, strategic partnerships with 3 of my other holdings. With each point, I watched the board's expression shift from skepticism to genuine interest. "These projections," James Chen leaned forward, studying the numbers, "they're incredible. They're conservative." Actually, I pulled up another spreadsheet. "My analysts suggest we could see 40% growth in the first year post-restructuring." "Your analysts?" Victoria's voice cracked. "Who are you?" I turned to her slowly. "I'm the woman you've been stepping over for 8 years. The secretary who built a multi-billion-dollar empire while you were taking 2-hour lunches and dating hedge fund managers." "Board members." My father cleared his throat. "I believe we should take a brief recess to dash." "No need." I cut in smoothly. "The votes are already in. Check your emails." One by one, they reached for their phones. The message was clear: 9 of 12 board members had already pledged their support to my leadership. Game over. "This isn't personal," I said, though we all knew that wasn't entirely true. "This is business. Barrett Industries needs new direction." "Victoria," I turned to my stepsister, "you'll be offered a generous severance package. I suggest you take it." She stormed out, Margaret trailing behind her. The board members filed out shortly after, leaving me alone with my father. "When did you become this?" He gestured vaguely at me. "At the documents. At the empire I'd built in silence." "I was always this, Dad. You just never noticed." I gathered my papers, tucking them back into my briefcase. "Too busy trying to turn Victoria into your perfect heir to see you already had one." He slumped in his chair, looking defeated. "What happens now?" "Now?" I stood, smoothing my suit one final time. "Now I do what I should have been doing all along, running this company properly." I paused at the door. "Oh, and Dad? You might want to update your resume. The board expects my full restructuring plan on Monday, and I don't believe in nepotism." The press conference that followed was brief but seismic. Chicago's business community watched in stunned silence as I outlined my vision for Barrett Industries' future. No mention of family drama or personal vendettas, just clear, strategic thinking and bold plans for growth. Afterward, as reporters clamored for additional comments, I caught sight of Victoria and Margaret hovering near the exit, their expressions a mix of fury and fear as they watched their world reshape itself around them. "Ms. Thorne," a reporter called out, "any truth to the rumors that you've acquired controlling interest in other major Chicago firms?" I smiled, thinking of the dozen other deals set to close next week, the carefully constructed web of power and influence I'd spent years weaving. Let's just say, I adjusted my cuffs, revealing a flash of the Cartier watch Victoria had once mocked as obviously fake, that my business card collection is quite extensive. The headlines the next morning were everything I'd dreamed of, but it was the small moments that brought the most satisfaction. The look on Victoria's face when security cleared out her office, Margaret's stammered apology when she realized I now owned her country club, the way the word secretary suddenly disappeared from everyone's vocabulary. But the real victory came 3 months later, when the quarterly reports showed Barrett Industries' strongest performance in a decade. Turns out the secretary knew a thing or two about running a company after all. I kept the nameplate from my old desk, tucked it away in a drawer in my new corner office, a reminder that success doesn't always wear designer suits or announce itself with fanfare. Sometimes it sits quietly, taking notes, building empires in the margins of other people's stories. Victoria sent me a message shortly after the dust settled, an attempt at reconciliation wrapped in a business proposal. I had my assistant decline both. Some bridges aren't meant to be rebuilt. My father, to his credit, took his dismissal with dignity. He sent a single email: "You became everything I should have seen in you. I'm sorry I missed it." I didn't reply. Instead, I focused on what I do best: building, growing, succeeding. The secretary turned CEO, the afterthought turned empire builder. And every morning, when I walk into the Barrett Industries headquarters, soon to be renamed Thorne Global Center, I smile at the security guards who once barely noticed me, let my heels click against marble floors that now belong to me, and I remember that sometimes the best revenge isn't proving them wrong. It's proving yourself right. The end.